Hello, everyone. Welcome to Psychology and Spirituality, a bridge to a better life discussion. I'm here today with Dr. Anahy Fonseca, and we have a proposal. As we've been talking a lot for the past few weeks, and we'll continue for a few weeks further, we're talking about grieving, we're talking about the sense of loss for aspects of ourselves. We are here today tackling and exploring a perspective or facet, if you will, of adulthood that rarely shows up in, say, public conversation such as this today, which is the grief of our own reflection. So, inspired by Spiritist psychology, the works of Joanna de Ângelis, and our own reflections, right, Anahy? We're going to talk about this moment when we come face to face with the erosion, the irreversible erosion of our youth, our silvering hair, the marks on our skins. And I think, and I touch myself by my eyes, it's there in the silent question. If I am no longer youthful, beautiful, etc., am I still valuable? So, Anahy, I'm inviting you, I invite all of us, everyone here, all of us, to reflect with us on how our bodies they change, but as it goes through those changes, they're really not losses, right? This is an interesting, and we could call it even sacred exchange with aging, and how our grief for our former self can become a path toward a important, deep spiritual awakening toward who we are. But Anahy, before we keep going, how are you doing?
Hi, Marcia and everybody. I'm doing great, fantastic, and very happy to be here with you again.
Awesome. So let's take a moment and think of the first quote unquote wrinkle or actual literal wrinkle that we can notice, right? What are they? So the first, oh yes, gray hair. The first time you look in the mirror and you're like, who's that person? It no longer reflects the face of what I feel inside. My mother, Anahy, in her early, late 80s, and she passed when she was 90. She would say to the last day, I no longer recognize myself. And she had that flock of beautiful gray hair, right? But that moment, the first time, especially when we look and we don't recognize ourselves, can be a quite profound, shocking moment to us. And I want to ask you before just as we start this conversation, can we explore perhaps why is that? Why is it so shocking?
Wow, a lot to uncover here. Well, first of all, I think we have to understand
Hmm.
because personality and the way that the ego looks at itself, right? The body relates to the body. It's pretty much influenced, for instance, by the culture,
Yeah.
the days that we live in, the time that we live in. For instance, Marsha, I'm thinking here in Middle Age, for instance, Renaissance, the beautiful Leonardo da Vinci and
Yes.
Michelangelo and all those wonderful artists. If you pay attention, they would paint ladies, right, even without the clothes. They were kind of comparing to nowadays standards, kind of well, with some a tummy, a little tummy, some some kilograms, if you'd say, pounds for people in the United States and in Europe.
Yeah.
overweight, something like that. But they were considered beautiful
Yeah.
because, of course, there was lack of food, and also
Yes.
because they understood that women that had some more flesh, let's say,
Yeah.
were more fertile and a
Yeah.
lot of children, because everybody I think knows that estrogen and other female um, the endocrine systems, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And hormones, sorry, the hormones that I was thinking about. So
Mm.
they are produced in ladies, estrogen and things like other hormones. They're
You know,
produced in
I
the fat.
never thought of it, right? The so-called Rubenesque women that were just voluptuous, right? And you see that Renaissance and later for a big period of time, right? And how they're considered beautiful. Do you know what I always thought? Now that you're going from a medical perspective, it's yes, it's beauty. We're not going to talk about, but we could divert into beauty and the elite, right? So, in the time of slavery, for example, beauty
Yeah,
was considered if I am dark skinned, it means that I have to work to live, no matter what race you are. Therefore, the paler I am, the more beautiful I am, right?
yeah,
In some countries, and even today, there's some cultures that the bigger, the thicker the women are, when you said they are better able to be a mother, more fertile,
yeah.
etc. Therefore, they're more attractive. And but I never thought about the whole undercurrent of actually estrogen, right? It's
Yes.
hormonal. I
Yeah,
never,
it has to
never
do
thought
with
of
the
it.
fat,
Yeah,
not exactly produced, but kept
yeah,
in the fat, you know.
yeah,
So that's very important for us to understand the context that we live in. So
yeah,
we have nowadays a lot of food,
yeah.
especially, at
First
least
world. Yeah.
the first world. So,
Mm,
and of course, a lot of we have now the ability because of the anticonceptional pills and
yeah,
things like that to
yeah.
decide if you want to have babies or not.
Hmm.
So, and a lot of women prefer, to go to work and things like that. There's this shift. We know that physiologically it would be better for women that want to have children to have in their 20s,
Hmm.
but now they are having after 30 and a
Yeah.
lot after 30, almost near 40.
Hey,
And it,
freezing their eggs is a thing, right?
yeah,
So,
freezing the
so
eggs.
yeah. So to me, what comes to mind, and sorry for interrupting you,
No,
as
go
we talk
ahead.
about this cultural shift, I believe the pale skin and the very rotund nature of a woman who did not have to work and had access to food no longer a problem today, right? Or have children. But what is our biggest currency today? It is the ability to be paid well in our professions. And there is a correlation, right, Anahy? There is a scientific correlation between youthful, beautiful, whatever is the standard of beauty, and the ability to get a job.
Oh, yeah. And Marcia, here at least, of course, in Brazil, that is not first world, but I was listening to a colleague, a
Yeah,
psychiatrist, that she was
yeah,
commenting, talking about research
yeah,
with medical ladies, so medical doctors, female from São Paulo, that it's
yeah,
considered first world quality of life
yeah,
because of the population, the instruction, because it's São Paulo, one of the biggest cities in the world.
yeah,
So the medical ladies,
mm,
they die unfortunately earlier than
Mm.
the average women in population
Yeah.
because of stress, because of a lot of diseases that women used to be more resistant to them, to
Yeah.
this kind of like cardiac arrest and things like that. So they're drinking more, they're smoking more. Immunological diseases is a great
Mm-hmm.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
and the level of stress.
Yeah.
So, of course, and also the appearance that we were talking about, wrinkles, right? So
Yeah.
you have to struggle to be, you have the persona. We are going to be talking about that. So you have to look nice, healthy, and all of that. So you shouldn't have overweight,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we were talking,
Yeah.
um, middle ages. That was considered beautiful. You are fertile, so all of that. So, and you delay if you want to have children, and you have to take your university and PhD and this and that to
Yeah.
be able
Yeah.
to be, of course, desired and respected in your field of work. So what happens that you delay a
Yeah.
lot pregnancy, and
Yeah.
that's not good for the women's body, or even for the babies, because we can
Yeah.
have a lot of problems, genetic problems even.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this is a shift of culture, cultural,
Yeah.
and also perspectives, and also
Yeah.
about, of course, then we get to what we call old age. So
Yeah.
I'm giving you some of the aspects of the medical field because I have heard from one of my colleagues that it's a plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
Okay, and she said, "Oh, we have to reflect upon, and I think upon aging as
Mm-hmm.
a chronic disease." She
Yeah.
said that, a chronic disease.
Yeah.
Okay, I said, "No, it's not a disease." But in this context, I can understand what she was talking about, because now we know about telomeres and things like that, and in the genes, in our, the
Yeah.
way that our body respond to stress. And aren't we always stressed these days?
Yeah.
So and so, of course, then we are going to get, there's another research that I was talking about with some other colleagues, that's saying, if you are stressed, if you have a relationship that is very stressful, they were calculating the impact on the body, and in your physiology, and the acceleration
Yeah.
of the aging process,
Yeah.
only because of one relationship that, like, it's has problems, real problems, of course, not the daily
Yeah.
aspect. So we are now researching all of this, okay? And the biological and psychological and spiritual aspects
Mm-hmm.
of aging. Biological, okay, they are trying to figure out, and they have all, we say that medicine is based on evidence. It's a
Yeah.
huge thing. So you
Yeah.
make people do a lot of exams, clinical exams, this and that. But the thing is that nature is perfect. There is a purpose for everything.
Yeah.
So if I have my wrinkles, as you are saying, and they mean something, they mean something to the psyche,
Yeah.
right? And Jung always says that it's very unnatural. Okay, he says in his collected works, in many different perspectives, but he says that it's very unnatural for a youth not to worry with the future, right? Um, as much as for an old person or a person that is aging,
Yeah.
not to worry about death and the end of life. But what he meant was not, of course, morbid stuff,
Yeah.
thinking, being afraid of dying or something. But then we bring Joanna and Spiritist psychology. He was talking about existential
Yes.
questions, from
Yeah.
where we come, worrying about that, or reflecting, especially not worrying, but reflecting upon these questions, existential questions: from where I come, what am I doing here, what have I learned to
Mm-hmm.
now? Because usually it's from middle age on that we, if we are healthy and if we are aging healthily, then we are going to be okay. I've done this and that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've made this and that choice. But when I was 15, I thought about life in a certain way. When I was 25, in another way. After 30, in another way. So, what does that mean? How do I look to life now that I'm 15 or 50 or more? Because we are considering middle age nowadays, because the extension of life life
Yeah.
cycle. So we
Yeah.
are thinking about middle age around 50 years old.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So okay, what have I learned, and do I look to what I have, my mistakes and my successes, and what do I think about them? Because mistakes and success, says Joanna, they are part of our journey in this life, and they are
Yeah.
part of the learning process of the spirit. It's not
Yeah.
something that you should discard. So, but you are only going to think about that, really think about, reflect upon, because you need maturity to do the,
Yeah.
to make this kind of questions.
Courage,
When
right?
you,
Not just maturity,
yeah,
but courage.
courage. Yeah, courage. Yes, yes. So, but this kind of courage, Marcia, that has to do with what you asked me, of the courage to look on the mirror
Mm-hmm.
and to see my wrinkles and to
Yeah.
remember, for instance, well, I have this. I laugh a lot, and you do too. We
Yes.
laugh a
Yes.
lot here,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And we speak a lot. A lot of men say, "Oh, women talk too much," but it's so fun, right? We're in a podcast. We love to talk.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a very it's a trait of the feminine, of
Yeah.
right. So the thing is that, if of course we have lots of muscles, the place in the body with the amount of muscles, the greatest amount of muscles are is our face,
Yeah. Yeah.
and with a lot of tiny little vases, arteries, and this and that, and with a lot of um, like nerves, so
Yeah.
that it's so beautiful. We say the
It
face
is.
that we are going to show God. We can think about that. So we have. Why do we have all this tiny little? I'm thinking when I was a medical student, we have to do anatomy the first year, and I thought,
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, what is that? I'm not going to talk too much about corpses here. I don't want to
Yeah.
people to feel sick. No, no, this crazy doctor. But the thing is that it's so beautiful when you make like a kind of reverence to our body, and that it's this perfect body, this developed through millions of years, that creation gave to us, so that the
Mm-hmm.
spirit can have this experience. So when you look in the mirror, all of your wrinkles, they are showing you, right, the experiences of the soul in the body. I thought it was wonderful the way you talked about, my first wrinkle. So, of course, the ego is not going to see the way that we are discussing or debating here. The ego, probably, depending on the courage and maturity and the type of reflection will think, oh, I will have to do some plastic surgery because this and that is not, I have a wrinkle here, another here, another here. But that's an ego that it's too much identified when we do that with the persona. So the persona is the Jung's concept. Persona is the Greek mask, the word, and he used persona, this Greek word, to talk about a complex that is related to the ego and is mostly conscious, uh, that is exactly our social mask, the way
Mhm.
that we present ourselves to the outside world, and the ego creates the persona to adapt to this world. But then now that I've talked about the persona, so we can understand that, wow, I'm seeing a mask, maybe in the mirror, and I don't like this and that in my mask. So I would like, Marcia, to ask you, it came to
Uh-huh.
my mind, the myth of Narcissus,
Yeah, yeah.
because I think
Let's
that's
get
very
started. Yeah,
important for us to bring this here. Could you
yeah,
tell
yeah.
us and people that are listening to?
And I don't know if my headset is doing so well. I hear a little bit of an echo.
For
But
me,
let's,
it's cool. It's
okay.
okay.
So let's go ahead and get started, right? With because it's so beautiful, right? If you think about it, the tension between how we feel about ourselves, how we age, as we mentioned, but then that is also against the context of this society, and it's the spirit of time, right? This is the context today, a society that worships, for many different reasons, the cult of youth, beauty, and that becomes, I mentioned before, your biggest currency, your most important currency is how youthful you are. And of course, i I just feel very strongly that when beauty or youth that 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 couple of beauty and youth together, when it fades, we start going through that social invisibility, right? So at that point, because it goes back into what you're saying, at that point, my identity created by my ego no longer makes me worthy. Who am I, right? But anyways, myth of Narcissus. To me, Anahy, it's one of the most powerful stories, which is found in Greek mythology, Narcissus, right? And it will explore self perception, identity, and of course, the myth alerts us, as a good myth does, the danger of becoming trapped in appearance. So, who was Narcissus? Narcissus was this beautiful, just extraordinarily beautiful man. And he was young, and he was the son of the river god Cephissus and the nymph Liriope. And when Narcissus was born, there was this prophecy, and the seer told the parents, right? Narcissus will live a long life if he never came to know himself. Interesting prophecy. So he started to grow older, and his beauty, he was so handsome, his beauty became legendary, and a lot of people just would fall in love with him, but he rejected all of them, and he did so almost with a couple of indifference and cruelty. And it's interesting enough that one being that fell in love with Narcissus was another nymph, Echo. And Echo, um, she would only Echo, right? Echo, she would only repeat what she would hear. So, anyways, what's so interesting about Narcissus is that he's cursed now, and he Echo encounters, and I'm trying to remember how to do, but Echo encounters a Narcissus, and she in love with him, but she did not have the ability to express her feelings. So when finally she revealed herself, of course, Narcissus, true to himself, he rejected her. He was very harsh, and she, heartbroken, withdrew from the mountains until only her voice remained, right? Echo repeats your voice. But when the gods saw Narcissus' arrogance, they said, okay, this is life, folks. Not it's mythology, but it's really life, life lessons. So they said, okay, we're going to teach this young man a lesson. So while Narcissus was walking the forest, he stopped by this pool of water, and he did that to drink. And when he looked down, right, he saw the reflection of this incredibly beautiful face. And interesting enough, at the time, no mirrors. So he had no idea that was him, his image. And he was captivated by his image. And he fell desperately in love with that image. And every time he tried to touch, and this is what we see in paintings, right? Him looking and trying to touch that pool of water that it was perfectly still. But every time he tried to touch it, the image would vanish in ripples. And he was unable to actually leave the pool because he was not able to withdraw himself from the object of love. And interesting enough, he was not, of course, able to possess the image either. So he slowly wasted away by the water. And when he died, the beautiful flower, the narcissus, was born, right? So what I would like to think about here is the fact that this is it's a story that tells us, and I don't know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but at that moment that he's looking at himself, Anahy, he does not love himself, right? He actually is in love of an image that he doesn't even know it's him.
Yeah.
So the obsession about beauty is what traps him. It's what keeps him from living. And I can imagine that psychologically, it's really a biggest alert for us to think, what are we obsessing about? Is it the image? And when we're obsessing about the image that we're projecting, are we wasting the opportunity to touch ourselves, our essence? Does this help frame the discussion here?
Yes, perfectly. Perfectly, because we are in an age, in a time, as you said, the spirit of time, that we are all kind of caught, like Narcissus,
Yeah.
caught by our images, you know. Even, for instance, a lot of my colleagues and psychologists and other professionals are talking to people nowadays
Yeah.
through the internet, right? As of course we are talking, but we are talking to everyone, let's say, and we are reflecting together. That's something. But when we are talking about personal things, and then of course we would see it's okay, it's fine, because now we can talk and people can see professionals from different parts of the world. But one of the things that from the beginning it bothered me, because all of this technology, if you see, Marcia, you are talking with the person. Imagine, you are in a session, for instance,
Yeah.
okay, and through uh, different platforms, of course, but using technology, you are supposed to be looking to the person because it's eye to eye contact.
Yeah.
It's, as Jung says, two souls, okay, in the room, even if it's virtual, but it doesn't matter because, at least in Jungian analysis, Jung is the first, I think, psychologist and psychiatrist to say that the psyche is out of space and time.
Uh-huh.
Really say that, right? So we don't, it's okay if it's like you're using your of course you're in the same time, but sometimes we are not because we're talking to someone that has it's in different time frame, right? Because of the different times in different countries, but and even in different space, but uh, the two psyches are together.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to be looking to the person. Of course, sometimes your eye is going to drift a little. It's okay, but you are in contact with the person, and then you have your own image. I
Yeah.
think that's so crazy. Your own image is okay, even if it's little, but in some
Yeah.
platforms it's big. You have the
Yeah.
patient or the person, right? And you have yourself. And why? What's the matter? Why do I have to look at myself? Doesn't make sense. And
And can I say
so,
something,
yes,
Anahy?
please
Because in the
do.
professional setting, right, and that's my life. I just for everybody who may not know me, but on average, on average, this is a good day. I have 12 meetings a day
Wow.
and 12 meetings that are virtual, 12 meetings that just like here, I see I'm myself among other people, can be two, four, 100, and all the little faces are there. But it's very interesting the trap that we get captivated to see ourselves as the talker, as the speaker. So
Yes.
sometimes you are there, but the person who's talking is looking at himself.
Yes.
It's very
Yes.
interesting. It's almost like you cannot not talk without looking at yourself, which I
Yes.
guess that's what you're trying to say in
Yes.
that
I was
dialogue.
with a
Yeah,
yes, I was with a patient the other day,
yeah,
and she's of course middle aged. We were talking about the first wrinkles, right?
yeah.
And she said, "Oh, Annie, sorry, but there's something wrong with my platform, with my computer." I said, "Why? It's everything's fine for me, for me. No, I cannot see myself. There's
Uh,
something wrong." She's
yeah,
not
yeah,
supposed to see herself.
yeah. And
She
filters, right? You can even talk about filters and
yes, and all
whatever
of
is
that.
out there. Yeah, all the trappings of modern technology and virtual meetings
Yes.
and how we trap ourselves just like Narcissus.
Yeah, just like nurses. So you see, if we are in a therapy session,
Yeah,
okay, of course, it all depends on the case and depends on the age and the objective, but usually
yeah,
people that are, as we are talking, aging
yeah.
and are after 40, 50. So in a setting, as we say, of therapy, it doesn't matter the line Freud and Jungian, but in my case is
Mhm.
Jungian. So you were supposed to be trying to look, trying the psych, as Jung says, looking at it at itself, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that especially in aging, when you are aging after middle age, is that
Mm.
point when you really need to look deeper within yourself. So
Mhm.
if you are caught in the Narcissus aspects of personality, and Marcia, it's very important to make a distinction here. Okay, but
Yeah.
just finishing my thought. So if we are caught in the narcissistic aspects of our personality, because everybody has some kind of narcissism, it's
Yeah.
okay, it's part of our ego and our self, but lowercase self, our individual
Yeah.
identity, not the capital S
Mhm.
self that it's for Jung is the higher self, as people say.
Yeah.
So, but the self, lowercase s, so our individual identity and the ego, the center of personality, of course, they are going to be preoccupied. How am I looking? What is the person, even a medical doctor or even a session, what is she thinking about me and this and that? But we always, especially in analytical psychology, Jung's psychology, the important thing is to go deeper, to face our own shadows, so
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
inner truth, so that we can get to that point to find our higher self, Jung's self, capital S, because that is the gold. That's where our, as Joanna de Ângelis says, that's our spirit here, the part of our spirit that is manifesting through this psyche, this life. And our spirit knows what we have planned to do and learn in this incarnation. So that's
Yeah.
so important. But going back to narcissism, that it's very important. I'm trying to think together with you, Marcia, and everybody else that is listening to us, the different aspects of our culture that are calling to the Narcissus within
Yeah.
ourselves, the myth, right? The
Yeah.
one that got caught and even died because he wouldn't, he
Yeah.
couldn't stop looking at himself. So, what is important is that for psychiatrists and psychopathology, we say that. So modern psychiatry and psychology said that the clinical part, okay, so I'm in
Yeah.
the spectrum of narcissism, so the less to, to the disease, the
Yeah.
narcissist personality or
Yeah.
personality disorder. Just quickly, we have three major aspects, that it's the pattern of grandiosity,
Yeah.
okay, and the need for admiration, constant need for admiration, and a
Mhm.
lack of empathy. If people keep in mind these three aspects, that's the core of the narcissistic personality. But let's say very high scores of all that,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. Sure.
And the thing is that then the person is constantly preoccupied with fantasies of success. I have to be successful, I cannot make any mistakes, and with power, very driven towards power, anywhere I can get power,
Mhm.
and beliefs of special status.
Yeah.
I'm someone very special, or things
Yeah.
like that. Exploitation of others. So all of these are behaviors that aren't these behaviors and this kind of patterns, unfortunately, so prevalent in our culture nowadays, right? But this, we are talking about the disorder. So we have to keep in mind that narcissism exists in a spectrum.
Yeah.
And it's also, a little degree, some degree of narcissism, as I say, not the narcissism myth, but some degree of narcissism is healthy, because I
Mhm.
have to, to realize my own accomplishment, to have
Mhm.
accomplishments, have pride of them on them, in a healthy way. I have to have a healthy self-esteem. I have to recognize what it's okay with me, take pride in, in things that I have done right. So this is all something important. But the problem, Martha, is that let's remember that the ego, so for Jung, this is okay, but this is still in very the surface of of our personality. And Jung always goes to the archetypal parts.
Yeah.
Okay, then we get to the myth, right? And what Jung said is that's an archetypal issue also. So when he talks about archetypes, he's talking about what is common to all of us,
Mm-hmm.
that dimension of the that he calls the collective unconscious, where we have patterns of behavior. For we could think of the archetypes also as pattern of behaviors that are common to all humanity that we share.
Yeah.
And so the problem is that for him, then the narcissism means that you are fixated upon, on the persona, the mask,
Yeah.
and then you forget, or kind of you try to compensate, okay, some what we call narcissistic wounds. Okay, and that's usually has to do with the inner child. So it's more complex, if we say, if we understand, because then it means that the child within us has been deeply hurt,
Yeah.
usually because her individual identity was not recognized. And truly, the child develops a false sense of self, lowercase s, okay, of
Mm-hmm.
identity, and struggles throughout her whole life,
Mm-hmm.
or his whole life, uh, trying to, so developing a persona that has to be perfect, has to have many
Mm-hmm.
likes from the
Yeah.
adults, that and so forgets about who you truly are.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's very, then we could get to the point of a personality disorder.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think
And
it's
that's
that's
so sad, isn't it?
it
It's
is.
life is hard as is. It's not an easy task to just live. And when we live in this context that we cannot age, even though we know aging is a privilege, isn't it? Aging is the badge of honor that we lived and we overcame all of our perils of childhood, adolescence, and adulthood maturity, and we're at a point that we embrace the all of our imperfections. I'm thinking of a Bruno Mars song at this point. I guess it's Bruno Mars songs, right? To embrace all of our imperfections, but then we are enveloped in this culture that, and this is mostly impacts women more than men, right? Mostly impacting
Yeah.
women where they have to freeze. When you're talking about the face, the thought to myself was when you said that the face has so many muscles and all of it is there for a reason, right? Which is empathy, which is recognizing in the face the emotional response to each
Yeah.
other, right? This is really important, and it starts at a baby. When a baby looks at the mother and the father, and you start to understand this landscape of, am I doing well? Am I doing well? Am I loved? Whatever. I'm being very superficial here, but then what happens to women at the first sight of a wrinkle? And I have many. It is, let's put some product to actually freeze. So, what you said about the face with so many muscles to be able to represent the emotional response to anything is now anesthetized, stopped, frozen in this persona, this mask of beauty and youth that is no longer the truth. and which
Yes.
literally there's so many, even with the words, you start to think about all the symbolism of all that we're doing to ourselves. And I put myself as we because I, as a woman who's aging, going through this, I feel the pain, right? I feel the need to go back in time and I grieve. I have to tell you, I quote unquote mourn the loss of my youth, my ability to be healthy, and the ability to compete, Anahy, in my professional setting. Younger, very nimble, cognitively speaking, physically speaking, in their sense of beauty are coming, and I feel more and more invisible, not very easy to go through on my daily life, right?
Oh, Marcia, yeah. So I feel for you and for
Yeah,
all.
yeah, yeah,
We all have to adapt. I have undergone to many, of course, as everybody else, and women have more this, I think, this problem because of our culture also.
yeah, yeah,
All the projection that to have to be perfect, you have to compete, and all everything that we were talking about.
yeah,
And usually there's still this kind of chauvinist thing. I'm
yeah,
sorry to, but that men that are have gray hair and that show their some kind of aging. They are powerful. They are, of course, if they dress well and all this
yeah,
stuff, and
yeah,
because they are successful and this and that. So, but think, let's think together. We are talking about the
yeah,
spirit. It's a
yeah,
spirit psychology, right? And
yes,
it's Joanna de Ângelis, and Joanna says that consciousness,
yeah,
it's an achievement of our spirit is evolving. Our, it's a consciousness comes, she says, not from the brain,
yeah,
but from the spirit. Okay,
yeah,
so when Jung says, when you are caught like Narcissus by the social mask, by the persona, you forget your essence. The
yeah,
gold, we say, that is what? Our spirit, this spirit within. So let's think of the faces. I know we are in the end almost
yeah,
of the conversation, but let's think, people, and Marcia, in our face as the symbolism of, because of all these expressions
yeah,
of the life that we have lived. And when we say, how am I going to present myself in the higher realms, right?
yeah,
When I go back to the spiritual realms, in the face, well, how I'm going to present myself to the creation, to
yeah,
God, and
yeah,
however
yeah,
people want to call the creation. What have I learned? So have I learned to put my mask on, paralyzing my muscles,
yes,
not
yeah,
expressing myself, and not taking pride of my the wrinkles that show that I have laughed a lot, that I have cried a lot, that everything that has happened to me made me better in terms, even in evolution of my spiritual knowledge and
yeah,
consciousness, right? Jonah calls us, we are
mhm,
going towards cosmic consciousness. I'm doing an exercise and reading all her books and see where she talks about consciousness and what I love, cosmic consciousness, right? So, of course, I want to present myself as I've done a good job, even to myself. I
yeah,
have lived deeply and, really lived and really had all the experiences and all the pains and joys of this learning process that I've chosen to myself in this incarnation.
yeah,
So I think this face not
yeah,
only to what we call the creation, but to ourselves, to our
yeah,
higher selves, the ego. Okay, I have this persona, it helps me. Okay. And I'll do some kind of of negotiation, let's say. But I'm not going to change my essence. I'm not going to be caught in this mask. And I'm
Yeah.
going to pay attention
Yeah.
to the gold within, to my
Yes.
essence and my authenticity.
I
Wow,
love
that
it.
I think,
I
yeah.
no, I love it. I love it. And I would say that this discussion today touches most of us, right? It touches me specifically because it's a time, a period of time that I'm going through, and the teachings of today's discussion is one that life's changes, the wrinkles, the gray hair, etc. They're not subtractive, I guess is the word, right? They don't diminish who we are. They are really transformative instead. So we've been talking a lot about the wrinkles and the gray hair, the fading beauty, fading youth. As you mentioned so beautifully, Anahy, those are all invitation to all of us, and they are inescapable no matter how much you go through in terms of surgeries and treatments. It does not matter. You cannot avoid it, right? But those are just immensely important invitation for all of us to seek and find depth, to embrace who we are, as you said, our spirit, our essence, and we just need to understand and welcome and appreciate the value, not the loss that maturity brings with us. Whew, we are at time, so I just have to say thank you, Anahy. Beautiful, beautiful conversation. Thank you, everyone who's here with us today. And thank you, our sponsors. Mansão do Caminho, the United States Spiritist Federation, the International Spiritist Council, and AMI Brazil, the Brazilian arm of the Medical Spiritist Association. Anahy, see you next time. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you, everyone. So long.
Thank you for having me. Bye bye, everyone.